Hey guys, Skylar here from the Mint Change You Can Wear. Today we're going to be talking about is 64 Kennedy half dollars. They're the silver half dollar that tends to have problems for most people. So they'll split easily or crack or bubble up if you over anneal them. So we're going to talk about some of the pitfalls there and talk about how to avoid them. Okay, so here we go. We've got our 64 Kennedy now all punched out and ready to go. And if you want to see how to make a half dollar from start to finish, you can look at another video I'm going to link to my description in my description box. This video really is just going to focus on the peculiarity of the 64 Kennedy and what exactly I do to finish this one in particular. So regular half dollars, you're going to have to follow the actual other video that I have that will cover that in detail. This is just going to be the difference, like I said. So anyway, we have it punched already, and we're going to go ahead and start annealing it. And I kind of covered this part in the annealing already, the annealing video I did, but I'm going to go over it real quickly again as far as how you anneal a 64 Kennedy or even a Franklin. I did the same thing with a Franklin. So we're going to get to that right now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over this with a very, very light flame and just really keep it almost away from the coin. I just want to barely see a color change here. That's all I want to do. Just bring it up to it real slow and easy. You don't want to rush with a 64 Kennedy at all. Okay, now you can see it's starting to turn a little bit of a brown there. That's about. Let me see if I can actually get it to the camera here. It's about that brownish, goldish color. Now I've waited too long, so I'm going to have to do it again, but I wanted you to see that color change. So that's what we're looking for. Let me bring it back up again just to get it proper. Okay, so we're back there again, and then listen for the quench. Okay, so you heard a quench, and that's what you want to do. If you don't hear a quench, you've done it, not enough. And like I said before, if you overdo it, you'll start getting bubbling. But you can see now that it's all annealed, and the surface looks still smooth. You don't see any deformation or bubbling or anything like that. So we've done it right. And the next step now is to go ahead and start doing the pressing. So we're going to go ahead and move over to that next. Okay, so here we are at the 6-ton A-frame hydraulic press that I got at Harbor Freight. And you can look at some of my earlier videos, that half dollar video, I'll go over the press a little bit more in detail. It was a pretty cheap press though, $60-something or something like that. And also, I never mentioned this before, but you could, if you wanted to, if you have your ring stretcher reducer, your ring sizer, and your die will fit underneath of it, like these, you have to get these made dies, you can go ahead and use that to press too, with half dollars and quarters. You don't have to get a bigger press if you're not. It makes things easier though, it really does. But you can get away with using it, the regular stretcher reducer, if you can fit your dies under there. But anyway, so now we're going to go ahead and start doing the first pressing. And let's get it down. What I'm trying to do is I usually do about 6 presses in this press is what I found to make it fit my next die. And I usually do 3 breaks as far as pressing. I'll take a break and re-anneal when I'm doing a 64 Kennedy. So here we go. Okay, so there's 6. If it started to go cockeyed on you or something like that, you can stop, readjust it, and then continue on with your remaining pulls on the press until you get to the 6. And so now we have it done. Take a quick look at it here. And so we're looking at the very rim here, the edge, to see if you have any splitting or anything like that going on. You don't see any. Really, what you really want to look at is right inside of here. You'll look inside that rim and that cut edge. And you're looking for anything that's not right. And at this point now, we've got it pressed. Before we anneal it, we're going to do one thing. We're going to sand that inside rim with some 120 grit sandpaper, and we're going to look for problems. Sanding is going to make it all one, nice bright color, so it's easy to see. And also, if there's any micro cracks or anything going on in there, it'll get rid of it. So that's one thing we do with these 64 Kennedys. That's different than the other ones. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so what I like to do is get my sandpaper, and I usually keep little squares of it like that, and I'll just kind of twist the end of it and put it in there and just rub it around with your thumb, and that's just going to get that surface real good. So we're going to do that real quick, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now this is what we've come up with here. You can see the that surface is nice and smooth, and now we're looking for any Looking for anything in there that looks funny. And see that little ding right there? That could possibly be a split right there already starting. So what we want to do is keep sanding to get rid of that. And that's the kind of thing we're looking for. You're looking for it on the very edge, even in the middle. So that is something that's irregular. We'll get rid of it. We'll keep sanding until it's gone. Get right back to you. All right, so I kept sanding it. And now, well, actually now I can see it with some magnification. It's still kind of there. Just barely. So I guess I'll keep sanding it. Okay, so we sanded a little bit more now. You can see that little mark or divot or whatever it was is totally gone. And all the way around, we're looking pretty good. You see some sandpaper marks is about it. And that really is what's going to stop these things from splitting. For whatever reason, I don't know why, they just want to split really badly. And then when the annealing is the other part of it, they want to melt or bubble up or whatever really bad. And I have no idea why. But this is the way I found to eliminate it most of the time. You know, there's an outlier still that has a real problem, and there's nothing you could do, but it will split, you know. But this is the way you really eliminate most of the problem. So that is ready to re-anneal again now. So we're going to go ahead and back and do the exact same thing we did the first time, just don't want to bring it up too hot. And then we'll get right back to you and we'll start the second stage of pressing. All right, perfect. So now we're back and annealed again. Okay, so here we are back at the press now for the second stage of pressing. And like I said again, the original $half video is going to tell you the size ball bearing I'm using and everything like that. It's still the larger of the two. I think it's 23 millimeters or 7/8, and that's the larger of the two ball bearings I use for $half. I'm pretty sure. You have to go back and check the other video to be sure. But anyway, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to press this until the $half is basically closed up around the side of this ball. Let's see if I can put it a little closer. See it a little better here. And that will be the end of the second stage. Then we'll move on from there. Let's see here. All right, so that's about it. Let's take a closer look here. So that's pretty much squeezed up against that ball bearing now, and that's as far as I take it for the second stage. So we're going to go back to resanding that cut edge, looking for any irregularities, and then we'll re-anneal it again for the third and final stage of pressing. Okay, so here we go. Even if it doesn't look like there's a problem, you know, it really doesn't look like there's a problem with this one, do it anyway. It's really important that you do it anyway. It'll stop you from cracking the thing. So we're going to go ahead and just do a little bit of that. And then we'll go ahead and recheck it. And let me get a little closer. This magnification actually on this camera is very helpful. Alright, we're good to go. I see some scratches, but that is just from the sandpaper. Alright, we're ready to go for re-annealing. This is actually another good note real quick. Take a quick look at that detail on the inside of that band. I'm using a steel ball bearing, so there's no Delrin resin here. It looks really, really good. So, just a quick observation I noticed. Alright, we'll get to annealing now. Okay, check this out. So this last annealing I got a little too aggressive on it. Didn't look like it from the video, but look you can start to see just a tiny bit of delamination there, little problems on the surface. You know, it looks to me like, you know, there's little miniature layers of the silver here. You'd think it's homogeneous, but I think that it's layered some way, and it starts to split off from the layer underneath and creates these little tiny problems. That's just barely becoming a problem. And look you can see it here at the rim too, up top. So that is why we got to be very, very careful in annealing. So I'm already creating myself problems. No good. All right, so now that I've recognized that I can see there's some little miniature problems on there, before I do any more pressing, I'm going to go ahead and re-sand that, and then I'm going to even bevel this edge a little. Usually I do it before I start stretching, but I'm going to do it early now because I can see I'm already starting to have problems. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and then we're going to go to press. Okay, so now you can see I've resanded that edge, and then I've beveled it with a, you could either use a Dremel tool if you wanted to, or a file. I generally use a file because I get overzealous with the Dremel tool and screw up the coin. So, but anyway, so that's been beveled, and now all those little micro cracks are removed. And those cracks didn't appear from stretching; they actually appeared from the torching. It stopped. It wasn't there before I started annealing, and then they got there because I just overdid it just a tiny bit. So anyway, now we're ready to go to start the final stage of the ball bearing stretching. All right. Okay, so this is the final stage of pressing here. And now my die pitch is 20 degrees, and you can see that in my specifics for my punch and die video. And I found when I get it this far, and it's really important as far as procedure goes, make sure you're doing the same thing each and every time. It's kind of like bowling. Make sure you start the same, the same boards every time and throw the ball the right way every time, because you're going to come out with a specific outcome. And with coin rings or anything else really, you're talking about consistency and regularity. So here I found I know exactly where I'm at as far as the bending process. I know it takes about usually 2.5 presses on my press to make sure I can get it all the way down, almost touching the inside of that die without touching the coin. Because if you start touching the die to the coin, you lose detail, so you don't want to do that. So you might have to practice a little bit and get your methods down a little bit to make sure this is the final stage. This is where you could screw up the coin if you let it press too far and touch the die. So just a quick word on that. I'm going to go ahead and do it for me. There. Now I know that's pretty much right where you need to be right before you start touching the die. Take a look, pull it out real quick and take a quick look at what it looks like on the bottom side. So this is how I just double check my work. You look inside and you can see it is just almost touching but not. That's what you're looking for. So now we're going to go ahead and re-anneal it, re-sand it to make sure there's no cracks, and we're going to go on to the stretching. Okay, so here we go for the final annealing. It's already been sanded and everything, that cut edge, and now we're just looking for that final annealing before we go to the stretcher. And that should be about it right there. All right, off to the stretcher. Okay, so just like the regular $half video shows, I'm going to stretch this thing out until this outer rim, take a look at it here, until this, we're going to stretch it out until this outer rim is touching the side of that stretching mandrel over there. And if you want to get a better close-up look at it, like I said, look at that other video. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And as you stretch down, always turn it, so that way you're not stretching the same place twice. And if you wanted to, actually, now's a good time. You get halfway through, or a quarter of the way through, a third of the way through. Stop, take that, and look at that cut edge, and make sure you're not seeing any cracks forming. If you catch them early, you can go ahead and stop them. But if you just keep stretching on through, you're going to miss them and they're going to crack. But generally speaking, if you've done your due diligence over there, you won't have that problem. So I'm going to keep on going. It's always good to verify, though. Stretched out. I'm sitting exactly where I need to, right at the 13. This customer needs it at a size 11, so 2 sizes too big is exactly right. So now we're okay. So now it's all stretched out, and here we are back at the press, and we're going to go ahead and press it to get the final size, and then get rid of that taper also. So we're going to go ahead and put it in the die. Put something over the top of it so it presses evenly in the press. And press it down. Okay, so I generally overpress, and you can see the original $half video to see why. And we're going to go ahead and get that to its final size. So anyway, that is basically it for the special things about 64 Kennedys, or Franklins, I guess. I'll go ahead and show you the finished product when I'm done. If you want to see all the details on how to make a $half, you can go ahead and look at that $half video that I'm going to put in the description box. But that is it for 64 Kennedys. So hopefully this video will get you where you need to go, and you won't screw up any more 64 Kennedys. Thanks, guys.